And one, let's go ahead and get things going here. Welcome everybody. Just getting all the streams started here so we can kick things off the right way. All right, looks like we are live here as well. Let's just get all my comment windows open so I can see what you guys are saying. All right, one more window to refresh and then we should be good to go. Oh, wrong one. Not that one, this one. All right, cool. Up and running, live everywhere. Welcome everybody. So let me get started here officially. Vicon, welcome. Vicon Design, welcome everybody. Mark, Glenn, welcome as well. Great to see so many of you coming in. Let's see here. If I can make this window a little smaller, then I can see Sarah. All right, Marilyn Miller in the house. Adolph, welcome everybody. And let me tell you a little bit about what's going on. First of all, my name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live on this Monday afternoon. Cloudy and rainy here in Atlanta, but that's besides the point. We're inside. Sunday, I did a live stream on my own personal channels, just doing a live shoot with the Nikon Z6 mirrorless camera. Then I decided, well, since I'm trying to do more photography streams on the Adobe channel as well, I decided to pick up where I left off Sunday with the product shoot. And what I mean by that is we'll take a couple shots just like we did on Sunday, but more importantly, I'll show you how I post-processed one of the images from that shoot. Or from today's shoot, I should say. So with that said, we're going to just jump right in. I'm going to show you the setup, tell you a little bit about the gear that I'm using, but again, this is more about the post-processing part of it today than it is the actual shooting part of it. So let me switch over to a view where you guys can see the set. So that's the product. We're shooting a 21-inch tire wheel and tire. And over here on this Apple box, I've got the Nikon Z6, which I'm going to bend down and turn it on. And one of the things I love about this camera, I'll keep saying it because I keep loving it, is the fact that it's got the flip up LCD so I can see what I'm doing without having to get on the floor to do it. Now, attached to that camera is a USB-C cable that's attached to an extension cable that's plugged into the laptop. So that way I can control and shoot directly from that camera into the computer so you guys will be able to see what I'm doing. All right, so with that said, let's venture over to the computer setup now so you guys can see what I've got going here. So I've got Lightroom Classic CC open, and I'm in a folder with no images. That's okay, because we're going to put some images into it. And to put those images in, we're going to use a feature in Lightroom called tether capture. And I can't stress enough how much tether capture has improved over the past few months with the new update that they've done for both Canon and Nikon shooters. All right, so I go up to my file menu, come down to tether capture, and choose Start Tether Capture. Now, because I turned the camera on, we're all set there. But what I want to do here is give this a session name. This can be anything you want, but keep in mind, if you, whatever name you put in here, that's also going to be the folder name for where all the images come into. So you might want to be careful how you name the session. Then of course you can do any naming sequence you want. So I usually do the name of the shoot or session plus a 4-digit file number for the images. Because I'm usually never gonna ever shoot 9,999 images in one session, but I might shoot more than 999, so therefore that's why I want 4 digits instead of 3. And why don't I just use 1, and then when it gets to 10, it'll be 10, when it gets to 100, it'll be 100, because when you're doing a search later on, this is just a pro tip I've learned on my own the hard way. If you search for 10 and you don't do the 00 first, that's the same thing as 100. So you're going to get all your 10s, you're going to get all your 100s, you're going to get all your 109s, you're going to get everything with 10 in it. So this way I can search for the exact file number if I were ever looking for a file number that I want. And why would I ever be looking for a file number? Because if I sent client proofs and they gave me back the file numbers, I'd need to be able to search for them. So that's why the 4-digit number is most important for me. So I'm going to start that at 1. Then you can choose where to put your images. Now, although Lightroom's catalog should be on your internal drive, the one you're working off of, or at least a drive that's attached all the time, your images don't have to necessarily be on the same drive. They don't have to be in the same folder. They don't have to be in the same location. They can be wherever you want them to be. So I keep my current, meaning working images, in my Dropbox folder. So that way, if I go over to my other computer, and the catalog's in there too, and I open up the other computer, wait for it to sync Dropbox, my images are there, my catalog's there. So that way I've got everything in one spot. And again, not necessarily in the same folder, but all in Dropbox so that I can work off 2 computers if I ever have to. Just remember to wait for it to sync. All right, next option you get, and this is kind of cool. If you wanted to share your shoot with someone remotely or someone in the next room or whatever, or someone on a mobile device, you can say add to a collection and create a collection right there on the spot. So let me do it. Let me just make a new collection. We'll create this collection. We'll call it product shoot. And I'll keep it in my demo. And the option there I have to sync with Lightroom. So that means that as I shoot, the images will go into the folder. That's where they live. But they'll also be copied into that collection. And since I'm syncing that collection, I can share that collection, and anyone that's looking at my shoot will see the images if they just refresh the page as they come in. So that is an option. If you want that, you have that ability. All right, so I'm adding to a collection. I'm also using my metadata template, which will add my copyright, studio name, phone number, address, whatever you want in your images metadata, so that as you shoot them, they're already there. All right, and of course, any keywords. So I could say, since this is all going to be one thing, wheel, the brand name, tire, product, you know, whatever you want as keywords, of course, since all the images are going to be the same anyway. So now once I click OK, it'll go out and look over the USB for the camera. It found it, and it brought up the little tethering heads-up display. So the heads-up display is kind of cool now because it, A, lets me see the camera that I'm going to use, so it's connected to the Z6. And also recently in updates, if you shoot with Nikon, you now have the ability to have multiple cameras connected and switch between them. So if you want to shoot some with one camera, I got my D850 over here, I could have that one plugged in too, switch to that one, shoot a different angle, whatever it is I want. Then I've got the camera settings here. So we're shooting at, just like we did Sunday, 1/25th of a second, f8, 100 ISO with a white balance of auto. Now, originally I was going to configure the mobile app for this camera so that I'd be able to press the button on my screen every time I wanted to take a shot. Then I remember, oh, you're going to tether. The tethering has a shutter release right here on the heads-up display. So I can just press that when I want to actually take the shot. Now, one thing I will do though is I will lean down one time and just make sure the camera's pointed at what I want and that the focus point has been set. So just pressing the shutter down halfway to make sure it's focused. And also one thing I didn't point out, here let me show you this real quick, is that on top of the camera, I've got a trigger for my main light right here. So this is an Elinchrom 600RX, one of my older lights, with a 39-inch softbox pointed at the subject. And this trigger, the Skyport Elinchrom, will trigger that. All right, so let's do it. Let's take a shot. And I can see it come in. I can go to loop view, which is the letter E. Looks nicely in focus, looks nice and clean, a little on the underexposed side for me, but it looks, you know, hey, it sees what it sees. It took a good shot. Now, before I forget to remind you, when you're doing a product shoot, the beauty of a product shoot is that your model, your subject, never gets tired, never needs a break, never needs food. You can shoot 24 hours a day, whenever you want, middle of the night, whatever. Your product's just sitting there waiting. However, your product will not groom itself. It will not clean itself. So if you zoom in and you notice something, like maybe some dirt anywhere in these holes or anywhere that there's some grime or mishap, take a second, walk over and clean it off right then and there. You might say, oh, that's easy to fix in Photoshop, or that's easy to spot remove in Lightroom. And while that may be the case, do you really want to spend your time having to remove that speck of dirt or those multiple specks of dirt on every single image in post-production? So try your best to get it clean, get it right in the camera so that you don't have to spend your creative time doing it in post. Now, one more thing I will point out is that that's even more important when you're shooting video. Because if you had a bunch of spots on a product and you're shooting a video of it, well, good luck. It's going to take you forever to rotoscope or try and remove those images or those things out of the video. So a product shot, not that hard to do in Photoshop, but on a video, I've learned the hard way. Clean the screen, clean the device, clean whatever it is you're about to do, just wipe it down, because there are things you don't even see, but will be very clear in the video once you look at it. All right, so I got a question here. Glenn Hewitt is asking, will Lightroom send the images to the card also when tethering? Yes, if the camera supports that. So here's the difference between brands. Canon supports tethering to both the computer and the card at the same time. Nikon does not. So it's not a does Lightroom do it, it's does the camera support it. So yes, if the camera supports it, Lightroom will do it. If the camera doesn't support it, then Lightroom can't do it because it's not supported. So yes, if you shoot Canon, no if you shoot Nikon. So for example, I don't even have the memory card in the camera because it would just be wasting time. What I mean by that is there's images on the card. When you turn on tethering and turn the camera on, it has to look at every single image. Is that okay? 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 Before it even shows up to the computer. So the simplest thing, especially since I'm not going to record to the card anyway, take the card out. That way you're not wasting time waiting for it to go through all the images on the card. Okay, now let's fix a couple things first. Like I said, it's a bit underexposed. I got my camera settings exactly where I want them. So where I really need to fix this is here, the light. So let's turn the light up a full stop. It's on 2.5 in Ellen Chrome speak. Let's turn it up to 3.5. All right, let's take another shot. And I see a question. Adam's asking, can I tether on my 2018 iPad Pro with Nikon and a D750? Tethering's just not supported on a Nikon, at least not wired anyway, period. It's not the camera, it's not the software, it's just Apple has not built in wired tethering support for developers like us to take advantage of. However, there are several wireless solutions that will allow you to put a gadget on top of your camera and shoot wirelessly to your iPad, cards that have Wi-Fi on them. The camera itself has Wi-Fi on it, in your case, the D750. So there are ways to do it wirelessly, but not wired. All right, so that's getting a little bit better. I like that. Let's take it up another half notch. Let's take it up to 4.0. Take another shot. And basically at this point, it just should be getting brighter. All we're doing is giving it more light to show brighter. Okay. All right, so I'm liking it. I'm going to try and go up another half stop. See where that puts me. That's probably going to be too bright, but let's try it. Oh, actually, on my screen, yeah, that is, okay, I see it on your screen too now. It's a little brighter than I want. The tire is starting to get a little washed out on the edges there. And of course, I could fix this in post, but why go through every shot and have to fix this in post? And again, this is what it looks like on full screen. So, looks good. I'm not seeing any glaring things, except, speaking of glare, you'll notice on the bottom right-hand side, there's like red in the shadow. And that's because there's a big red sticker on the bottom of the tire. And since this is not my tire, I don't know that I have permission to remove that sticker. I probably could, and they probably wouldn't care. But if I take that sticker off and they do care, you know, in other words, ask the product owner if it's okay for you to remove the sticker that says it's new. Now, we're going to get rid of that red glare in post. And I don't want to rotate the tire anymore because the T in the logo is upright, which is another thing I care about. Unless I pull that cap off, rotate the tire, put the cap back on so it's upright, you could do that. All right, let's turn this down just a hair. Let's go down to 4.2. And let's go back, get out of loop view, or get back into loop view, I mean. Take one more. And that's about where I want to be. Maybe down or up. Actually, that's about where I want to be. I'm going to leave it there. All right, so now that I got the light dialed in where I want it, what's next? Well, we can take a couple more shots. Again, it's a product. It didn't move. Taking 50 shots of the exact same thing is really not very useful or helpful. Get a couple just in case. Check your focus, zoom in to make sure everything's focused the way you want. Make sure there's no marks or anything that you don't want. And that's about it. So at this point, if you want a different angle, you might go that route. You might lean it down. I'm looking for something to lean it on. Normally that would be another tire, but I'm going to substitute this this lens, or this light dome here. And I'm going to bring it forward a little and lean it down on this ever so carefully so I can shoot up at it. So now if we look at it, it's laying down, and of course the red sticker is going to be very prevalent, but that's okay because I'm not trying to get the tire itself anyway. All right, let's focus on it again. And you're probably saying, well, Terry, what do you mean you're not going to get the tire? The tire's going to definitely be in the shot. It will be, but that's okay because I'm going to crop it. See, and it's just, the problem is it's not leaning up high enough. Let's see, I've got another apple box. Let's try that. That's why another tire would be perfect. All right. All right, lay it down very carefully. Don't want to scratch it. There we go. So now we're getting up at the angle I'd want. I'd want it a little higher, or maybe I'd bring the camera and shoot down on it a little bit, but that's kind of getting where I want to be with the angle. Now, like I said, I could just raise the camera up and tilt down. So let's try that. I'm going to stand the apple box up this time and tilt the camera down. Something like that. All right, let's try it. That's pretty close. I'd still mess with it a little bit more, but you get the idea. All right, so the next thing I want to do now is let's look at some images and do some post-processing. At least post-process one of them. So while we've got this one here, what I meant by the sticker wouldn't matter is because what I would do on this shot, let's take one more. What I would do on this shot is I'd head over to the develop module and I would crop the heck out of it. So let's bring up crop, which is also the letter R for crop. All right. We'd want something like that, where we're really just showing the tire itself. Now, of course, I could also just go closer to the, if I was worried about losing resolution, I could just shoot closer to it. I'm using a 50mm lens, so I physically would have to get closer to get that shot, but that's kind of what I'm aiming for here. Now, the other thing that I'm not liking, like I love the angle, again, I'd want it a little higher, love the angle, but what I don't like right now is I can see there's like just a slight yellow cast from some light. It may be the ceiling light, but see how there's right here by the valve stem, it's kind of like a little yellow in there. So this is what we're going to do. And we're going to do the same thing to get rid of the red in the shadow. So we're going to go into HSL, hue, saturation, and luminance. And I could probably just grab the yellow slider and pull it down for the saturation. Well, let's say I don't know what slider it is. I could go in and just simply use the target adjustment, point at the color I don't like, and drag down. And it will remove that color from the photo, like so. Love, love, love that. Okay, next up, let's go back and do some basic things. So again, I usually use a vivid profile. I just like that profile. Not gonna make a huge difference here, but it does make a difference. I would probably, I like the contrast a little higher than that. I like the blacks to be maybe a little blacker. Definitely want to increase the clarity because it's not a person. So we can really get funky with the clarity. And I don't really need any dehaze on this, but this is kind of where we are. This is kind of where we are right now. All right, so we're kind of really getting there, kind of getting that look and feel that I like. All right, let's do one more. Let's go back to one of the ones that was straight up and down. I zoom out. All right, let's go back to one of these. Let's go back to one of the last ones we just took. And again, zoomed out, that looks pretty good. Or zoomed in, that looks pretty good. Let's go to develop. So I hit the letter D over to the develop module. And let's go in and, first of all, same thing on that red down there. So for example, we'll go back to HSL. We can zoom in on it, by the way, and see that nice bright red reflection. We can just use the target adjustment, point right at the red, and drag down to remove that color. All right, same thing in here. If I don't like this yellow, drag down to kind of take some of that yellow out of the shot. So now I can focus on the things that I really want to do, like go back out, change my profile back to vivid, select the exposure. Kind of like just about everything going on here. Maybe bring that down a hair, punch up the blacks, increase the clarity. Yeah, that's starting to look the way I want it to look. Try a little dehaze. Whoop, too much, too much, too much. If it hurts, don't do that. Go the other way. Still too much. Maybe a +5, maybe come back off the clarity a little bit. There we go. And again, while that's a nicely centered wheel in the shot, I don't really want, oh, by the way, Mark's good point. The yellow's probably coming from that box behind the wheel, casting that light or shadow onto it. Anyway, let's crop it. So hit the letter R. This time I'm going to do a little creative cropping. I'm going to switch to a 1-to-1 ratio, basically a square. And then this, again, we know it's a wheel, but do we really need to see all of the wheel? Or can we kind of make it kind of look cool or cooler? Something like that. So just those are things you can play with and kind of get those dramatic professional shots that you see in the magazines all the time. And it's really clean product, sharp focus, good light, and removing distracting elements. Try and do that in the camera up front. And then at that point, now you can play in the software. You can play in Lightroom and do the kinds of things you want to do, or play in Photoshop and do the kinds of things you want to do without having to spend a lot of time touching things up in the photo that you could have easily just cleaned off the product. So I keep saying that, I keep re-emphasizing that. because these are lessons I've learned the hard way. I'm spending all day in Photoshop doing something that I could have not spent all day in Photoshop doing. Let's bring the shadows up in this just a little bit. And that's one of our final shots. All right, so with that said, yes, Lightroom tethering is so much faster now, Ant. You're absolutely right. Love it, love it, love it. And by the way, I am shooting RAW. That's another thing. So people think because the tethering is so fast now, oh, he must be shooting JPEG. Nope, these are RAW files. So if we go out and look at this, let's go out and we go to, and we come down. These are .nef files, so these are the real deal. These are RAW files right off the Z6. Now the Z6 isn't the biggest RAW format in the world, but even when I'm shooting with my D850, the RAW files come in just as fast, just like that. And very, very fun to shoot capture or tether capture now. All right, let's see if I missed anything else. Anna, good morning from far, far away. I answered that one about the card. Lots of hellos. Welcome everyone from Concord and New Hampshire and around the world. Great, great, great. Have I tried the loop deck to assist in the post? I love the loop deck. I have one in my studio, my other studio over there. Yes, I do use the loop deck. Great product. Brampton, Ohio, North Carolina, Michigan, Terry J Photography. Welcome everybody. Okay, so with that said, that's kind of going to wrap things up for me. So next time you're doing your product shoot, just again, I'll reemphasize those same things. It's more about taking care of as much as you can before you take that shot or as you're taking those shots than doing the post. Because the post should be about how can I make this great shot better? Not how can I clean up a bad shot that I couldn't use because I didn't take care of things in the camera that I could have. All right, and hello, Serbia. So, New Zealand. So New Zealand, everyone's coming in. All right, guys, I hate to end this for you, but I'm going to wrap things up here. We're already at our 27-minute mark, which we try and keep these down to 20 minutes, and I fail every time. So with that said, cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody.